Okay. Thank you, April.
Absolutely.
Okay, you want me to put up my slides or are you putting up yours?
Oh, I thought I was sharing. Give me one moment.
And so while she's pulling this up, for those of you that were on last week, you remember we talked about turning our I'm sorry's into thank yous. And we also said, if you remember last week, that they are sometimes that we do need to say I'm sorry. When we can't just interchange that with thank you for waiting or thank you for your patience. There are times that we have to say we have to use those words, I'm sorry. And so today we're going to discuss a few of those times that we do need to use the words I'm sorry. Okay. So we just wanted to put that out. So when you hear it, you don't think we're confusing. Last week you said not to use I'm sorry. And this week you're going to be saying, to use I'm sorry. So we just want to put that out before we begin. So today, language of caring, which you have seen when we send out invites and invitation, it says LOC, which stands for language of caring, and the goals of language of caring, making visible by incorporating skills, initiatives, and behaviors, serving internal and external customers at all levels in every interaction, creating a caring culture every day. Next slide, madam.
I'm stuck here. There we go.
If everybody can mute yourself, please, we would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So we have two things we're going to talk about today. The first one is long wait times. So let's talk about it. And I'm sure we all have something that we can talk about with long wait times. And we've all experienced it as volunteers being at drives, different things that occur. As a group, let's talk about a few things that may occur for donors. List some of the reasons. List reasons a long wait time may occur for donors. If you can put that in the chat, what are some of the things that cause a long wait time that you've noticed, that you've experienced from being on drives?
One thing I've noticed, if it's a delay in beginning the drive, of course, that's going to start a longer wait time.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. I missed that.
If there is a delay in starting the drive,
Okay, that's true. That's true.
it's going to create a longer wait time.
Okay. Anything else?
Shortage of staff.
That's also a good one. Thank you.
Last one I was at, the computers were down.
Issues, computer issues, yes. That's also true.
Andrea, in the chat, we have great examples. We have walk-ins, first-time donors, too many registrations, equipment issues, not scheduled but think they are, and then put in as a walk-in, missing equipment, staffing, short of staff, donors make appointments after the drive starts are some great examples in the chat here. No blood donor ambassador in place. Power red taking too much time.
Power red taking too much time. Okay. Oh. Well, yes, thank you so much for all of those. Are all great examples, actually. There's someone else just said something. What was that one, April?
They are scheduled on the list but don't appear in the computer, so have to list them as a walk-in.
Okay.
That was the final one in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so let me come back over here so I can see everybody. Okay, so those again were all great examples. Thank you all. Potential reasons may include, with some of everything that you've said here. Also a few things that have happened that I know from experience is sometimes what causes a late, the late start is also the staff getting stuck in traffic, issues with our vehicles. Those also contribute to that as well, which contributes, of course, you said, to the late starts. So thank you for those. The next slide, madam. In what situations are the donors at fault for their long wait? Anybody? The answer popped up before. Who was waiting was supposed to say at no time are donors at fault for their long wait time. Never ever. It's never the fault of donors. Next slide. So this is some of these examples. At what point in the line do donors get more frustrated? Why do donors put up with long wait times? What tends to be the most frustrating part of the wait for the donor? If the wait can be resolved, what can be done for the donor? Okay. So the next slide, if you remember everything I just said, the next slide is going to address all of these. So let's talk about it. So donors, most frequent responses to long wait times concerns are no one ever says hello to me. It was like I was invisible. And I'm sure you've heard some of these of being as volunteers. I'm sure you've heard some of what I'm about to say, what I'm sharing. No one noticed I was there. So after an hour and a half, I left. I doubt that they even knew I've been there. I wish they had just given me an update. They walked by me a dozen times and never once made eye contact. It's like it was intentional had I done something wrong. So these are some of the things that have been shared with us that occurs. But what can we do to change some of this?
Who was supposed to be taking, who is supposed to be doing this? No one even ever said hello, or was that either staff
This
member?
is what these are what the donors are saying. These are some of okay, so we're discussing long wait times. And so while we're having long wait times, what can we do during that long wait time? Because we gave great examples of why why we have a long wait time, equipment issues, staffing issues, people over presentation, those are all great. So while this is occurring, the donors are sitting and these are some of their thoughts that they're having. So this language of caring today is how can we address the long wait times, and while we're having long wait times, how do we help the donors and volunteers to, but mostly the donors feel welcome and comfortable. So these are some of the things that they say that they notice while they're sitting there, that nobody's saying hello to them, they're invisible, nobody's telling them what's happening. So it's like you go into your doctor's office, you have a 9 o'clock appointment. It's now 9:20, 9:30. No one said anything to you. No one greeted you and say, good morning. I'm so sorry for your wait. And the reason why you're waiting is the doctor had an issue, something. Nobody's giving you an explanation. No one is talking to you. They just keep walking by you. So this is from the donor's perspective. So what can we do? How can we help in these situations as volunteers and as staff as well, too?
Are we allowed to chime in here?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is Jim Bartle, and I apologize for tying in 5 minutes late. I had trouble with the web connection.
Good morning.
Good morning, and I hope all of you are doing well. I only volunteer at the Huntersville Blood Donation Center, but I've noticed that the greeting people when they get there, and most of them at the beginning, this happens most often at the beginning of the shift when we're still trying to get set up. And I'm just a donor ambassador, but I've learned this over the last year that it's a challenge to get everything set up and going. Usually the first people in are the platelet donation people. And if you explain to them, greet them, explain to them, and then be sure that, if they need anything, whether it's water or whatever, and they know where the restrooms are, and that someone will certainly be with them as soon as we get everything set up. They seem to be okay with it.
Come down here.
Uh,
Tell you later what's more important, the meeting or to join this meeting. Well, it just crashed.
So, whoever, can you please mute?
So my point is that it seems to be less of an issue with the platelets, the ones that I found that are really, really impatient, actually come later on, and it's the whole blood donors seem to have a much shorter fuse, and that might be because the platelet people, they know they're in there for 2.5, 3 hours. The whole blood people, and I can identify with that because that's what I do, is donate that. They seem to have a much higher level of frustration quickly. So but I do the same thing. I try and be sure I greeted them, ask them if they need anything right away, or if they need anything in a few minutes, let me know, and we're going to get to them as soon as possible. And then I talk to the manager to be sure that or supervisor, to be sure she knows who's up and who's waiting. And I think if they see you doing that, they're much more patient, even if they are the whole blood donors who are kind of seem to have a shorter fuse. Anyhow, just wanted to add that in.
No, thank you. Thank you for adding that in. And one of the things that you pointed out, which is really great, is the issue about the platelets. You know, like you said, they're used to being there for 2.5 hours. So to them, it might not be that big of a deal versus someone that's on their lunchtime, you know, for whole blood needed to come in and get out. But the point that we're trying to address is you also said, gave an example of that, is how we make the donors aware of the wait time, make them aware of the fact that we see them, that we appreciate them, and that we're thankful that they're there, and that we value their time.
Can I
Yeah.
share something? Can I share something, please?
Sure.
Okay, couple of things. First of all, I'm fortunate enough to be the ambassador for our blood drive in Chester, and that's where I'm from. So having
Thank
said
you.
that, I've had the opportunity over the years since 2017. When I first started, I did some one-on-one recruiting. So that allowed me to know people personally, you know, one-on-one. And of course, they tend to come back. Another thing, doing my blood drive, I'm there a couple hours early to do what I need to do, for as putting signs up where the bathrooms are, directing to the bathrooms, and other places. So that allows me, when the staff arrive, I'm able to help them. Also, I do the little thank you poster, a little large thank you poster as they're leaving. They'll see thank you again. Also, to have enough volunteers. So that just makes me free to kind of walk around to thank the people. If there's something that the staff sees a problem, I let the staff leader address the donors that has arrived to let them know what is taking place, because they know better than I am, know better than I do. So that has really worked for me in the last 12 blood drives I've had. Just freeing yourself enough, if you're the facilitator, to be able to walk around and talk to them and call them names, one-on-one names, because a lot of them I know. And my new people, that's allowed me to have some one-on-one time with them as well. And it works very well. It has.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would second the thing about saying thank you. What I've also learned is that thanking them when they come in, thanking them for waiting, thanking them when they, you know, after they're done with the donation and they sit down in the canteen area, and then thanking them when they leave, you know, seems to make a huge a difference to them. I think it's all about they realize that we appreciate them being there, you know, and that it's a sacrifice of their time. So I would second what Eloise just said.
Oh, thank you both. And thank you, Ms. Eloise, that for the great job that you're doing as a blood donor ambassador. We appreciate that, and your time and your effort. And this is what this module is about. Again, is what do we do during these times? And of course, you've all experienced it from being on drives. And I mean, we're all different. Some people tend to be shy, and so they're too shy. They don't want to speak to the donors. They're sitting there, you know, they're uncomfortable with it. But as blood donor ambassadors, regardless of us being shy, we need to address the volunteers. We need to thank them for their time, explain, you know, if there's a wait, what's going on. And there's also a what we call a long wait time period that the charge, you can ask the charge person for, or the team supervisor, who is ever there, to ask, you know, what is the approximate wait time? And they're supposed to have a poster that they put up at the registration desk so we can explain that to the donors as they come in. You know, we have an approximately this many minutes of wait time, so that they're aware of it and that they're prepared for it. So we can ask that of the charge as well. Anything you want to say, April?
No, I think you covered it great.
Okay, thank you. And so I just say someone said something about who's that says humor goes a long way. Try to update like a countdown. Yes, that's good, and that's you know, it's making people making the donors aware that we know that they're there. We're not taking it for granted. We appreciate it. Like Miss Louise said, Eloise says we offer them, snack, water, nothing too cold and nothing too hot, because we don't want to affect their temperature as they're going into to prepare for the vital signs. But we can offer them, things, just a good hello, how are you? Like she said, she recognized some people. Sometimes you do know some of them personally. How are you doing? How's your family? That kind of thing, just to keep it going. And also to be honest and upfront, letting them know what the wait time is so that they know. And also sometimes we give them an option if they don't want to wait, or if they know they have another appointment and they can't wait.
Mhm.
Next slide, ma'am.
Right.
So these are some other things. So we do have some donors that tend to speak and share their minds, and then we also have some that they don't. So we also need to recognize nonverbal cues. And so recognizing nonverbal cues from those around you can help you acknowledge others, their feelings as well. Simply greeting another person with a smile, head nod, simple hello can make all the difference in that donor's experience, ease your frustration caused by the wait. So you do have some people that will be verbal and some that will not be. And so we also need to learn those cues as well, the nonverbal cues. Anything you want to add, Miss April?
No, sounds good.
Next slide, please.
Did you want to do that piece, or you want me to move on?
Oh, yeah, they can put it in the chat. Anybody that have any examples of nonverbal cues or nonverbal behavior that you've seen. And, we have some people that will shy away, they won't make eye contact too. Some of the things I've noticed as well.
Mm-hmm. We have some great answers thus far. A smile, a nod, toe tapping. That's a different one. That's a good one. That shows that they're running out of patience there. The toe tapping, a smile, a wave. Anything else?
That's true. The toe tapping, I've seen that too.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Somebody has a hand raised. And someone says sometimes a donor is nervous. Yes, and that's true, especially if they're a first timer. And we need to be aware of that too. And if you do know if somebody's a first time donor, we need to, if you can get the opportunity to make sure the charge or the team supervisor is aware of the fact that they are a first time donor. You can even put it on the name tag too.
We can. We have eye rolling on here as well. Eye rolling, messing with hands.
Yes, that's true. Hopefully the eye rolling won't be on our part, but but
I had my hand raised, but then I decided to go on the chat box, and that was me talking about sometimes donors are nervous. They're
Yes.
there because they believe in the mission, but they don't like to be pricked and they don't want to talk about it. So yeah, the soft skills, and I agree with the people in the box saying smiling goes a long way. For sometimes in the busyness of it all, we forget that, to smile.
I agree.
Yes, definitely. And one of my favorite places to go for me is, I don't know if everybody's familiar with Moe's, when you're going to yell, "Welcome to Moe's."
Yeah.
And I wish that's something we could do for Red Cross. Welcome to the Red Cross, without scaring everybody. So that they know that we see them. But I always look for that when I go to Moe's, that they know that they saw me, that they know I'm here. And I just love that. I just love that. I love that effect that it has. Next slide, please, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, so we have some pro tips here. And some of these we've already said all of that. We've given some. But verbal acknowledgments. Hello with a smile. I see you're here. While I'm sorry for your wait. This is one of the things that we're going to explain in the next module. Hi, we'll be there with you as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience. We will be with you as soon as possible. Nonverbal cues. Turning your posture to face the person that you're speaking with them, making eye contact, smiling. And even though sometimes we have our masks on, like they said, they can see a smile in your eyes. when you know, you're giving a smile, even if you're wearing your mask.
That's right. And you can hear a smile too. If
Yes, you
behind
can.
the mask.
Yes, you can. And even in the emails or text, you can hear a smile and a thank you.
Can.
Next slide, please.
Okay.
Says, this is just a quote, says, customers are smarter than ever and looking for more value, more than just customer service. They want a great customer experience. And that is so true. I want a good customer experience. When I go anywhere, I want to do that. And for me, how I want to be treated is how I want to treat others. And so this is very important for us. We know how much we value our own time. You know, you go to the doctor, wherever you go, and you're waiting, everything is long and you get irritated and all of this stuff. So now we're on the other side of this. We are now in a position when we have donors experiencing that. How do we handle it? How do we treat them the way we want to be treated? Any questions so far? Okay, so our next module, Miss April, is going to be the blameless apology. Any questions about what we just, the long wait times before we go into this one? Any comments you can put in the chat? Okay, so our next module here is module 2, visibility, the blameless apology, blaming to blameless. Next slide. And a blameless apology will help us handle long wait time situations too. So the next one, this is what the blameless apology is. And April and I were talking like, what is the blameless apology? How do we explain this? So going beyond, I'm sorry. So a blameless apology represents sincere regret for another's unfortunate experience or situation. It's just that simple. Right, Miss April?
That's exactly right.
It's just that simple.
It's just that simple.
Okay. And a blameless apology does not mean you need to accept blame in any situation or anything that you did. It simply means that you can feel badly that someone has had an unfortunate experience. And that's all it is.
Right.
Okay. Next one.
Okay.
So again, last week we spoke about saying, I'm sorry, and changing that. And like I said earlier, this is one of the situations where we cannot change I'm sorry. We genuinely need to say I'm sorry. So say I'm sorry like you mean it. A rigid apology will only make matters worse for both people. Reframe your mindset. Don't be defensive. Imagine yourself in the other person's situation. Same thing like I was saying earlier. If you were the one at a doctor having a long wait time, no one's talking to you, no one's explaining anything. Be specific. Say exactly what you're sorry about. This often means repeating the problem and adding an apology. Avoid using but or if after the blameless apology. Doing so will unintentionally turn it into a blaming apology. So using but after I'm sorry can often come across as a flippant, insincere, or or that you're aggravated. This will only escalate the situation. Using if after I'm sorry will immediately turn the blame around onto another person.
Right. And Andrea, if I can put a little something in here too, with using but after I'm sorry, it almost erases the apology, because you put a but after it.
Yes,
it totally takes away from, it doesn't even sound like an apology when you insert but. So
it's like you're right. You're saying I'm sorry, but if it wasn't for the situation over here, we're taking it from accepting responsibility for whatever the situation may be. So again, the whole idea of I'm sorry in the blameless apology is to be genuine, to really be sincere, and for the person, whoever it is, whether it's the donor, the sponsor, and I mean, it could be another volunteer that's there. It could be a staff person. Whatever we're apologizing for, we need to be sincere about it.
Totally agreed. We have a couple of comments in the chat as well that go alongside this slide here where we have showing empathy. Empathy is key when you're apologizing. If you don't mean
Yes.
it, it can be felt and heard that you didn't mean it. So empathy is very important. And we even have a statement here. For me, I feel that we are just like another customer service company out there. Thought it was another one. But those were the two comments alongside this slide, and they're both, I agree wholeheartedly.
And again, for me, the biggest thing with this for me is how I would feel in this situation, that I don't want another person to feel that way. And so this will help us with the being sincere, because we know when someone's being sincere to us when we're in that situation. Don't
Right.
use the word just. Is that Tamara?
That is.
Okay, what do you mean by that, Tamara, if you don't mind saying?
Well, a lot of times if you use the word just, it's kind of like using but or if. It puts in, it doesn't show any empathy. It's kind of like you're making an excuse almost. It comes across. I learned that a long time ago. I try not to use that word because it can raise an eyebrow. In other words, it can make you think, are you being sincere or not?
So can you give me an example when you just like, what do you mean? And this is me genuinely asking you so I can learn as well. What is the just?
I'm trying to come up. Let's see if I can come up with something. I just hope that this helps. I don't know if that's the best example, but if you say, I just hope that this helps you feel better.
Oh, and another one that I dislike as well, since you gave me that example, is someone saying, it's like me apologizing and saying, I'm just an employee.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry for this, but I'm just the employee. I'm sorry this happened. I'm just the employee. What does that mean? Like you're saying, so is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, that's another example. Just doesn't, it kind of weakens what you're trying to come across with. It's kind of like but or if.
Oh,
because when you say I'm just, like for example, you say, well, I'm just an employee or I'm just a blood donor ambassador. That's putting yourself down, because that's taken away from you, because those positions are very, very important.
Right.
I like that. That's an excellent point. And to tag on what Tamara said, along with Tamikia's and Melinda's, don't minimize. And so it sounds like adding just minimizes the apology. And like Tamikia, her example, if you would just wait a little longer. So if a donor is waiting and the BDA comes up to the donor and says, I know you've been waiting. I'm sorry. If you'll just wait a little longer, as if they haven't waited long enough as is. So that makes sense. I like that, adding that just, how it minimizes the apology. I hadn't heard it put that way, but that makes total sense.
Yes, that's one of the things that's why I've been trying to get that button that says not just a volunteer. Because that really bugs me. I'm like, no, you're more than that. It's not just that. Don't take away from that your position that you have as a blood donor ambassador. You're very significant. You are the key. And you do play a significant role. You're not just anything. And I think there's a few other things. There's one here from Tom. He says, but remind them as to why the donation is so important, i.e. the South Carolina CEO Talbert's recent op-ed said that someone in the U.S. needs a blood donation every 2 seconds. If you make the donor feel that they're truly saving lives, they will be more inspired to remain and give. That's true as well. That is true. That is very, very true. But again, is what you're saying there, Tom, is also how we present it to the donors as they're waiting. With sincerity. We do value your time and thank you for the lives that you'll be saving as you wait. Again, it all comes back to making sure that we do have contact with the donors, that we do speak with them instead of just walking by them and not saying anything. And that's a great, what you said, Tom, that's a great information to share. A lot of people don't know that every 2 seconds somebody needs blood. But just taking the time to explain that and how the way in which we say it without certain words to come across as sincere. The next slide, please. Okay. We have some great examples. Thank you, everybody. Oh, and this one, I like what Corey says, I'm newer. So that can also be a negative way of taking back your apology. I'm sorry. A perfect example. I went to a restaurant a couple of days ago and we had an issue, and she said, you know, it's my second day here. I don't know. And I'm like, well, okay. What does that do for me? I'm the customer. How is that an apology? How is that a sincere apology? No, you know, so that was a great point, Corey, by saying I'm newer. So we don't want to say that to the donors. You know, it's my first time here as a BDA. Even if you do say that, well, you know, you can also follow along with, let me get the charge person who can help you better, or who has, you know, follow it up with something.
Yeah, there was no
Yeah.
additional comment. Even though she was new, but let me get you an answer. Let me get you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
right. Mm-hmm.
Next slide, please. So these are going to be and examples of not to use these. Using a blameless apology. Don't be defensive. Don't make excuses, and please don't put the blame elsewhere. Say apologize versus sorry. Say we unless literally speaking for yourself and another person. Saying I versus we makes the apology personal and more effective. Don't use sarcasm or nervous laughter. Doing so will feel like a second insult.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So please remember these. And I know I can speak from knowing a lot of my blood donor ambassadors, and just from listening to everybody that's on here today, that you all know not to do this. And I know you're great ambassadors. I believe in you. I do. Next slide. So caring tips to avoid when using a blameless apology. Using but or if after I'm sorry. We spoke about that too, right? April, we mentioned
did.
that. Somebody else
Yes.
said that. Doing so will
Mhm.
turn a well-intended apology into a blaming apology very quickly. And there's some other things we said, using we versus I. Use we if there is a we. But if it's you and you're the one that need to make the apology, please use I. Take responsibility for that apology that you're giving. Explain the reason for the situation in a way that ultimately places blame. Instead, add an appreciation statement to the blameless apology. This will often circumvent the need for further explanation. I have definitely used this is the comment, use nervous laughter unintentionally. I can't see the rest of that. Can you see that, April?
I can. I have definitely used nervous laughter unintentionally and made a situation worse. That's a lesson I only had to learn once. And he said it was a reflex. And that does happen. I know I have been guilty of that myself, where, you know, but certain situations get a little tight or get a little uncomfortable. It's like a giggle comes up and you don't, like I just did, but
Yep.
you don't think the
Perfect example.
perfect example, but you don't think the situation is actually funny. And that's that was Jamie's example. It's a reflex, and I think it's a way to kind of bring the nerves down. It happens. Now this is an example that a personal example. When I had my oldest daughter, my nephew was a toddler at that age. At that time, I was struggling trying to have this baby. You all moms, you know that's not an easy thing to do. My nephew got the biggest chuckle out of me in there, about to die, trying to have a baby. But that's an example where it was a reflex for him to laugh, because everybody else was nervous and upset and like, oh my goodness, is she gonna be okay? But he's giggling and laughing, not trying to, change the atmosphere. But it makes matters worse. It doesn't help. But it is a reflex that some people do have, and it's unintentional and it's not meant for harm. But if you're the person that's been waiting for 45 minutes and here comes someone giggling, laughing, and trying to laugh through it, it may not go over too well. But it does happen. It's innocent, but it happens.
Another one is when we say I apologize versus sorry. And for me, when I was sharing that with April, I was like, I do say I apologize. And I don't, to me, when I'm saying it, I think I'm being sincere, but and they sometimes feel that it can be what you call it, too formal.
Too formal.
Yes, I apologize is too formal versus saying I'm sorry. But I do use I apologize more because I guess I get tired of saying I'm sorry. I don't like to do that. So I like to use I apologize.
Wow,
But
fair.
I'm learning. I'm sorry, what was that?
I was just saying, from dealing with so many customer service apologies, just as bad as I'm sorry. Because when you get
Exactly.
transferred to 4 or 5 different people and they're all saying, I'm sorry, I apologize. I have said, please don't say that again. Because I think they have said it so much, it's just part of their conversation, and I've been on
And-
this phone 45 minutes. I just don't want to hear that. Just listen.
Exactly.
That's right.
And so that's what we were talking about last week. But again, like we're saying this week, it's like how to use I'm sorry when you really it's a one-on-one. And I guess when you follow it up, like the next bullet point says, when you follow it up with why you're sorry. So just saying I'm sorry, and why are you sorry? What are you apologizing for? What's the sorry about? Be specific as to why you're sorry, because that also helps.
Absolutely. And Andrea, one other point I wanted to add to this slide here is that apologize versus I'm sorry sometimes is learned behavior, because over the years working in different environments around different people from different backgrounds, some people have actually been raised to not say I'm sorry. They've been raised to say I apologize. I remember, gosh, it had to be over 10 years. Well, it wasn't Red Cross, it had to be 15 years ago when I worked in the school system. And one of the principals there, he shared that with me, where he said, as a man, I was raised to not say I'm sorry. I say I apologize, because I was taught that to say I'm sorry means that I am the person, I'm at fault. But I said, but you are. But he was taught to say it differently. So some of these steps are also, you have to tap into personal learned behavior as well to apply some of these principles, because some of us have been trained, for lack of a better word, to use certain language, not even cognizant of how it may affect another person, because it seems right to us or it seems appropriate to us, but not really thinking about what am I saying and why am I using those words. We don't always take those things into consideration. That was eye-opening for me when I had that conversation with that gentleman all those years ago, that he was taught how to apologize, and it was not to say I'm sorry, it was to say the word apologize instead of. So that
And that's
plays a
great.
factor as well.
And that's a great thing that you brought up. And I just noticed that Tamara tapped into it, what I was about to say too, that we do have cultural differences, and Red Cross is so diverse. People from the islands like myself, people from different places, different backgrounds, and we don't take all those into consideration. We just we approach people based on how we were brought up, how we were taught, not realizing that too can be offensive to someone else that wasn't brought up or taught that way. So, yep. But hopefully some of these things that we're learning today will help to lessen the cultural differences, and
Absolutely.
that's just a little bit. And some of our non-verbal cues, like we say, no matter where you're from, no matter what your cultural difference is, a smile can go a long, long way. And people can spot genuineness when they feel like you're really being sincere and you're being genuine. The next slide, my dear. Using blameless apology, when to use that. So what you do when you're giving a blameless apology, do make eye contact. Listen intently. Don't interrupt. Be specific. Say exactly what you're sorry about. This may mean repeating what the customer said to you while including I'm sorry to it. Keep it personal. Say I versus we. Using we can indicate an impersonal, by the book response. We don't want it to sound so routine. Tamara just says that listening is very important. And for me, when I'm having a conversation with someone, I like to make eye contact. I don't like to feel like you're multitasking, you're all over the place, you're doing everything else, so you're not really listening to me. And and I've had people say, oh, I can multitask. I'm hearing you. It's okay. I know I'm typing, or I know I'm writing, I know I'm this, but I'm hearing you, I'm listening. I'm like, well, no, I want you to look at me, because this is very important to me. I'm upset here. I'm having a moment. I need you to really take the time and be present.
That's right.
Was that a nervous giggle that we just spoke about,
It was
Miss April?
reflex. As Jamie said, it was a reflex. And And with the part about being specific, along with what Andrea was saying, as far as you can have a moment, which was what made me giggle. When you're having a moment, you need to feel seen in that moment, and being specific helps with that part, with you feeling like, okay, do you really understand why I'm bothered? You know, if you're apologizing for a different issue, you missed it. You don't even know what I'm really upset about. To Andrea's point, like you said, I'm having a moment, and if someone apologizes for the wrong thing, that confirms that they weren't intently listening to what was going on in the beginning.
And one of the things I can say, I know Tamika is on this call, so I'm going to call her out. One of the things I like with her when I would talk with her, so she would say, so what I hear you say is, and she would repeat what it is I said to her. And I was like, yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. And so we can go on from there. So I really like, I'm not saying I've heard that before, but being faced with her when she would listen to me, she would say, so what she would repeat it. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So this gives an opportunity in case what I'm repeating is not what you mean or what you meant, or, that gives me an opportunity to correct what it is that you're saying to me, what it is that is concerning, what it is that's upsetting. So I like that. Active listening. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's called active listening. Thank you. Any comments? Any questions? Okay. Next slide, ma'am.
Okay.
So this one is, we're going to be discussing deflecting the blame or placing the blame. As a group, we're gonna mention these, so you can tell me what you think this is. I'm sorry, but it's not my fault. Is that deflecting or is that placing blame?
If you said, but it's not, I'm sorry, but it's not my fault, you're blaming somebody, it's just not you.
Right. So you're deflecting it off yourself. We apologize. It's crazy around here right now. So it's like, we apologize. It's crazy around here right now. That's a form of deflecting. And we say we, and we're adding blame by saying it's crazy around here right now, which can also indicate a lack of organization. We don't want, a donor may feel that they're contributing to the crazy environment and feel that they are part of the problem. So we don't want a donor to ever feel that they're a part of the problem. Sorry, but we're short-staffed. And we're blaming the management or the organization. I hear that a lot, and that's one of the things I do not like. It's fine that we're short-staffed. I mean, it's not fine. We know that, but we don't need to say that's the only reason why everything is like this. We're short-staffed, but we can sometimes still be efficient. We can still do the best that we can still give 100%. We can still try hard and to get a job done. But sometimes it just comes across, for me, it's like we're short-staffed, so that's the reason for everything. Sorry you've been waiting. We had a call out and we're running behind. Again, it's placing the blame on a coworker. I apologize. What would you like me to do? Wow. I hope we never say that. Deflecting this, and this is where it was saying to avoid using I apologize, instead use I'm sorry, to make it a more personal connection and less formal. But I hope we will never say that. What would you like me to do? Woo. I'm sorry we got a late start today and we're running behind, and another thing of shifting the blame. What's the other one? I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. Wow. I hope we don't say that either. Okay, we've had so many donors today. I'm sorry you've had to wait. And this is, I'm going to address the other one that says, sorry, there's nothing I can do. For me, that's one of a pet peeve of mine too. If I don't know something, you know what? I am sorry for this. I am not sure of the answer, but I'm going to find someone that does, or I'm going to find someone that can help us. I'm going to find someone that might have the answer, not just there's nothing I can do and walk away, or what do you want me to do? That is terribly a no-no. Definitely a no-no. And the last one, we've had so many donors today, And I've personally, I've been at drives where we've had that situation, and someone else mentioned humor. I don't remember who that was. So that for me is where I'm saying, gosh, it's a great problem to have, over presentation. I apologize for your wait, and I should not use the word apologize. I'm so sorry that you're having to wait, and I thank you for your patience. But, over presentation, think of all the lives that's going to be saved, all the, that kind of stuff, to turn it around to make it informative and change the perspective of the donors waiting to see. We do value you waiting, and it is important for the lives of the people that you're gonna be able to save.
Absolutely.
Did that make sense, April?
That makes perfect sense. And we have some excellent feedback in the chat in regards to that. Melinda says, don't involve the donor in the problem, which is very important, because that's
Exactly.
deflecting on them, like they're at fault when we ask them to come and, donate their blood and their time. We can't fault them. But Mr. Jim B, this was a great point made as well. One of the challenging balancing acts I work on is not hounding the manager on donors waiting when everyone is busy, but also assuring they know when someone's wait time is getting extended and the donor is anxious. Sometimes it is a very fine line, and that is true, because the BDA feels obligated to get an answer for that donor, but you see that the manager is doing all that they can do to keep things going. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And he's exactly right. That is a very fine line of trying to offer the best customer service to your donor, but you have, excuse me, but you can see what's happening on the drive. You can see the managers and the staff trying to keep things rolling. So that is a fine line. That's a great point. And we have Janet who says, if we offer no reason, it can be interpreted as general disorganization and professionalism and unprofessionalism.
Right,
which
that's
is
true.
very true. And Linda also put in the chat, we appreciate your patience as far as another thing that can be said to kind of take the edge off of these situations here. And Jody placed in the chat, we have a huge turnout and need to find a little patience for saving so many lives. I like that ending, Jody, where you're adding that the power of positivity from the module of last week, where you're adding that positive statement on the end to turn a potential negative situation into a positive. So if you didn't attend last week, that's what we discussed, and you put that perfectly in regards to the power of positivity. So those were great points in the chat about this slide here. That's the last one I see.
Okay, thank you. Then our next slide, Madame, is.
Okay.
Before we go to the next slide, this is Virginia Cox Doherty. And I've been doing a lot of listening because I haven't been able, for some reason, to get on the Zoom. I've been on the phone each time, and I haven't heard anyone mention the word chaos. And I've heard that that word brought in a couple of times, the word chaos, and I've heard it mentioned in a couple of times with our donors, the word chaos, that we've had a lot of chaos going on, to our donors. And I don't think that word should be used.
What does that mean? I wonder.
Beg pardon. I didn't hear you.
I was just saying, when that word was used, I'm just wondering what could have been taking place for the donor to come to the decision that it was chaos. That's what I was asking. I mean, were they late or were they short? Just what was taking place to use that word?
It was used in my presence. I know I've heard it used in my presence at least twice, that to the donor, that as an apology, that we've had a lot of chaos going on.
Yeah.
Going on at least twice at different sites. I've heard it used, but I don't know what has happened that I can't get on the Zoom. I couldn't get on last time, and I couldn't get on, and I thought I signed up at the 10 o'clock, and I tried to sign up for the 4 o'clock, but I couldn't get on.
Could you? Do you mind telling me your name again? I'm sorry.
Virginia Cox Doherty.
Oh, Miss Virginia, hi.
Yeah, hello. I don't know what I did, but I couldn't get on for the Zoom. I did something. Haven't been feeling that well, and I've been sick. And I was trying to get on to 10 o'clock because I have some doctor's appointment in the evening. And so I wanted to make sure I got on for the morning.
Well,
But
no,
I've
thank you. I'm
been
glad you got on, and I will just have to talk to you offline to see, how we can help you with the next module that's coming up. But thank
It
you
has a
for,
line. Yeah, it has a line, a red line zone. And I know I signed up, and it said I was signed up, and so I left it on, last night, so that I thought I would be able to get on today at the 10
that's
o'clock.
okay. Not a problem, but I
So
will
I'm on
definitely,
the phone. Yeah, and I've been
okay,
doing a
yeah, I
lot of
see that.
listening. Yeah, but I wanted to make sure that I got that in today.
Well, thank you for sticking it out and for joining with us via the phone. And I'll contact you afterwards, not like directly afterwards, but sometime today to see what the issue is, if something we can help you with in that regard. And thank you for the examples of saying it was the staff that used the word chaos to the donors, which totally is unacceptable, because we're saying to be specific as to what the reason is for the wait time, especially as a staff or the charge person. Using the word chaos is again shifting the
And
blame. It's not being specific. It's being general, and that's not being what the word I'm looking for, April, personal. He's not taking a personal responsibility for this. This is just generalizing, saying it's chaotic.
and I don't know whether it was a staff person. As I recall, I think it was one of the persons, and I think I remember it being one of the site persons. I'm calling it site person. One of the persons that worked at the church or that worked at.
Oh, the sponsor. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, got
Yes,
you.
I think that's who it was. Yes.
And so, yes. But the blameless apology applies to everybody. Donors, not the donors, but the sponsors, the employees, the volunteers, learning how
Yes.
to address these situations and making it personal and blameless is very, very important.
Right.
Next one, Miss April.
Okay.
And a blameless apology will quickly begin to diffuse difficulty in everyday situations. Use I'm sorry as a part of the head heart statement. Again, we mentioned this from last week. There are times when we do need to say I'm sorry. And like Miss Eloise said, there are times where she's tired of hearing I'm sorry. But there are times when we do need to use those words. And there are times when we need to replace them with thank you for your patience. Communicate sincerely and with empathy. Match verbal and nonverbal communication, and be present, please. That's what I'm saying. If I'm talking to you, please let me know. And I can see in your face that you're not present. You're zoned out, wishing like, would she stop talking, please? No, we can see all of that in your nonverbal cues. So please, please, please be what's the word I'm looking for? Be aware of those nonverbal cues. So it's not just us looking at the donors and reading their nonverbal cues. They can also read our nonverbal cues and our body language. If they're speaking to us and I'm not facing you, I'm turning sideways and looking at something else instead of directly looking at you, instead of directly addressing you. They can also read that as well. That, oh, she doesn't really care. Look at how she's standing. Look at how I'm tapping my toe, waiting for you to stop talking. So it's also on us. They're reading our nonverbal cues, and we need to be mindful of those as well. Next slide, Madame. So core skills to use in a blameless apology, and also examples of skills used together. So the core skills are a gift of appreciation. So adding an appreciation statement to a blameless apology refocuses the negative situation to a positive framework. Example, I'm so sorry for your wait. I appreciate your patience. I'm sorry you didn't have the best experience. I appreciate you confiding in me. Makes it a lot different instead of just saying I'm sorry and that's it. We're adding more. We're going the extra mile by making it personal. I do hear you. I do see you. I do appreciate your time for being here. And it's conveyed in how I address you. It's conveyed in how I respond to you. It's conveyed in my response to you. I am so sorry for your wait. I appreciate your patience. And that's a lot softer, a lot kinder than just I'm sorry for you waiting. You know, that's it. End of that. What you want me to do? Not very good. Explaining positive intent. Share how your actions are for their sake. Using for you and with you are key phrases that emphasize the positive intent in your statement. For example, I am sorry. I need to step away for a few minutes to help another donor. I'll be watching you though, so if you need anything, please let me know. We've seen this in April. I've seen this when the donors are on the bed, especially when a staff person has two donors on the bed. You know, she has to attend or he has to attend to another one. They make the other person aware. I have to step away for a second, but I can see you. Or if I step away for a second, but April's going to help you while I step away to do whatever. So it's also making the donors aware of what you're doing. Showing caring non-verbally. Show care and concern through posture, tone of voice, and eye contact. Match your nonverbal language with your sincere, blameless apology. Same thing I was just saying earlier. I do not want to be talking to you and your eyes are everywhere else but in front of me where I'm having this conversation with you and you didn't hear half of what I just said because you're multitasking. So I'm so sorry we felt short of excellence for you. That must have been very difficult. I want to ensure your experience today is nothing short of excellent. I'm sorry, what did Melinda say? April?
She was thanking us for the great presentation and taking our time to share.
Oh, you're welcome. I was like, oh, what did she? Thank you. Thank you, Melinda.
And she was thanking us and I was thanking her.
Thank you, Melinda, for your caring words. See, I'm telling her why I'm thanking her. I'm thanking you for your caring words. I'm thanking you for your participation with us today. And thanking you for taking the time. Yep. Thank you for taking your time to spend a few minutes with us today.
Great.
Next slide.
Okay.
And apologizing doesn't always mean you're wrong and the other person is right. It means you value the relationship more than the situation. And we know this is so true. And it's also a sign of maturity. We understand what it is that we're doing. We understand the value of the blood and blood products. We understand the significance of it, what it means to the people that need it. People like my grandson when he was born 10 days old and he needed blood because he had a really severe infection that we weren't aware of at the time. And right now, I don't care who's wrong, who's right. Just save my grandson's life is how I'm looking at it. So apologizing doesn't always mean you're wrong and the other person is right. It just simply means you value the relationship more than the situation. And we apologize to maintain the relationship. This is one of the cases where it says you be the bigger person. And we don't, we just want to keep the relationship going. This is more valuable. This is more important. The mission of the Red Cross is a much bigger thing than trying to be right or wrong. What it does for the community, how we're there for them when they need us, making sure we have blood products on the shelves, making sure the mom that's sitting in the waiting room, like that young lady did that has sickle cell waiting hours and hours and hours, not showing if her daughter is going to die because we can't find the right blood type. That's more significant than trying to be right or wrong. Being there for them when they need us. And appreciating and valuing each person's time and commitment. They're taking their time, you're taking your lunchtime to come out here and donate blood. Please don't devalue that. Help them along with the staff. Sometimes the staff also make a mistake. They might overlook something, not aware that they have. And as trained ambassadors, we can, make them aware of it. Hey, this person's been waiting this long. Can you guys see what the problem is? Because sometimes the staff are just doing things from the master computer who has everybody in a queue, and they might not be aware of Miss Alice sitting here for the last 2 hours. So we as ambassadors paying attention to that too, how long someone's been sitting here, how long somebody's been tapping their toes, somebody getting frustrated, bringing it to the attention of the staff and saying, hey, can you see what the problem is? Why, what's happening? Why she hasn't been brought in back yet? What's going on? So we need to be present to see what's occurring as well, so we can keep abreast of the situation and also help the staff to see what's happening. Thank you all. Anything I need to add, Miss April?
No, you did an outstanding job, and we have one statement here that I wanted to mention from Sherry K. I'm assuming that's Cleffler, but maybe not. One situation not covered is when a donor has an issue at the canteen. It takes staff away and causes unexpected wait times for other donors.
What does that mean?
And that is true.
Explain that to me, please.
Yeah, this is Sherry. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. That's like, well, I was just at a blood drive last week. My husband and I donated, and we had to wait because one of the donors in the canteen passed out. And so staff have to go take care of that donor. They have to write up a report. They have to call the EMTs, et cetera. And so it takes time away from the donors that are waiting.
It does. And that happens at times. And that this is also one of the times where we need to step in and explain to everybody that's waiting, this is a situation that's happening. We are protecting the privacy of the person that's having this reaction, and just let them know upfront and honest. We're having a person with a difficulty right now. We're trying to make sure this